Let me know when you're. Welcome, everyone. It is 6 o'clock in beautiful Pflugerville, Texas, and we're at the beginning of our Pflugerville Community Development Corporation Board meeting. And I know Oscar was right here, but I'm sure he'll be stepping back in just a moment. Before we start, I'd like to, whoever may be listening online, is that we have all board members present in person, with the exception of Caesar. He may be attending later. Oscar was here, but he stepped away for a moment. And we have our executive director, Jerry, online. So he is already engaged. And with that, I will formally call to order the meeting of the PCDC. And the time now is 6:01. If you would, in the opening comments, allegiance. So if you'll stand with me, we'll do the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Item 3 on the agenda is items of community interest. And do we have any of those items, Jerry or Adam or Lisa?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Well, good evening. This is not my normal mode of communication. Can you guys hear me well?
Could you make it a little bit louder, Adam or Jerry, on your end? We can hear you, but it's a little
Slightly
soft.
muffled.
Testing, 1, 2, testing. Testing, 1, 2, testing. Testing, testing, 1, 2, testing. Awesome. I'm going to speak a little louder then. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me well?
Yep.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I will get straight to it. I'm not used to being in this mode of communication when it comes to board meetings, but we are here at Team Texas, visiting in Boston for Bio 2025. It's an international conference, and while these bio firms are here in the United States, and with the constant conversations of tariffs, a lot of these companies are trying to relocate and onshore. And so we're super excited to sit down and meet with them. One of the businesses that we were discussing today, the owner of the business is in Boston and also in Indiana, and the owner of the business lives in Austin. So there's an opportunity for us to continue conversations with them, especially since they're less than 30 minutes down the road. So really good opportunity to come look at their site, have those conversations with Team Texas, and share the story of Pflugerville. As we move forward within the next coming months, I'm looking forward to us having someone serve in the capacity of business retention and workforce development, and then also the business development director position. And hopefully they will share in the experience of being able to attend these meetings and try to lure potential and additional businesses to our community. And so we'll go to the next slide, where we are discussing our 2 interns. So we have 2 interns that are part of the Home to Texas program with University of Texas. For those of you who are UT fans, I'm going to say hook 'em horns, I guess. If you're not a Longhorns fan, do not hold that against me. But we're super excited to have Alad as well as Ryan represent their university and serve in the capacity of an intern. They've done an outstanding job since they've been here. A lot of the work that we've had them do has really been based off of our marketing and communications. So they've really been working with the team, with both Adam and Lisa, on making sure that some of the things that occur in the office, even to our town hall that we had about a week ago, they put together the entire presentation. And so they have really kind of hit the ground running and working really well with our staff, and we're excited to have them. I'll yield at this time for both or either of them to come up and give some remarks.
Turn it on. I think it's off.
Michelle, you can come up there too.
There you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, make sure the one that doesn't read stuff come up to the microphone. I'll let you guys figure out which one it is.
Well, I'll start off. Hello, PCDC board. My name is Elon Feinstein, and I'd like to start off by just thanking you all for having us here as interns, just giving us this opportunity. So kind of as stated, I just finished my freshman year at UT Austin, and I was just accepted in economics, like I just learned yesterday. So I'm super excited, super excited to just have the opportunity to be here and just learn everything I can and apply it back into here and back at UT. And so just again, thank you for this exciting opportunity.
Thank you. You're welcome.
My name is Ryan. I'm I'm entering my sophomore year at UT, and I'm also an economics major. And yeah, again, thank you so much to the board, and thank you to the amazing staff for letting us be interns here. It's been really amazing, and it's just this, I think, the second or third week here. You know, it's a really great opportunity. I'm just really excited to learn more about the city. I've grown up in Pflugerville my whole life. Yeah, it's already been amazing. So yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you both.
These two are really phenomenal, and they are just in it. I mean, the moment they get there, they are digging in, they're researching, they're trying to figure out what they don't know, and that's one of the things that I really do appreciate about them the most. They're not just sitting around waiting for 5 o'clock to get there, or 4 o'clock to get there, so that they can leave. They're actually engaged, and they actually care, and they actually want to know what they don't know. And if interns exist like this, send me more of them, because this has not been my experience in the past. So I'm super excited to have them, and really look forward to continuing to work with them, and also see what they do in the future, because they are two really bright young men.
How long are they going to be interns?
August the 20th, am I correct by that, Lisa?
August 1st.
August 1st. I'm trying to keep them for 19 more days. So August the 1st. And also, it's at no cost to us. UT are the ones who cover the cost for both of them. We originally were supposed to get one, but I think we were so responsive. They came back and said, "Well, do you want two?" And so I'm happy that we responded extremely quick, and was able to get these two young men.
And Ryan, just if I may add, Ryan had an internship in the city finance department, right? At one point in time.
Very good.
Excellent.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right. Thank you, guys. Welcome on board.
The next item on the community engagement is kudos to Adam and Lisa. They completed their basic economic development certification. This is extremely important for our board not extremely important for our staff to become equipped with the information that they need in order to be able to do their jobs, and really understand what economic development is all about. The BEDC is definitely something that if any of the board members would like to attend a BEDC training course, definitely would want to look to see how we can assist with scheduling that for you guys in the next sessions that they have. The state of Texas is unique because uh, they're the only ones that have 3 or 4 sessions, where the other states can only have one by the IEDC standards. So really a great tool to not only help staff get an understanding of economic development, but anyone else who's willing to attend those sessions. So kudos to Lisa and to Adam for going through that program, and I can tell you they're already coming back and using the economic development jargon, and I'm going, okay, their eyes are open, they get it now. So extremely excited to have them advancing their knowledge in this particular field. Do you guys have anything you would like to say?
No, it was a great experience. I second the motion.
All right, and next on the community engagement, this is really just a notification. Um, each as we roll along, I'm trying to identify the best mode or means to communicate not only with the board, but to also communicate well with the council and city, as well as just the community as a whole. And so what I've found effective, and I'm just trying out things to see what stick, kind of throwing stuff against the wall, is to create a monthly staff report that although we do the weeklies that we send out to the council and to the city the city to the PCDC board and the council. When you talk about weeklies, it's so kind of like granular. You don't oftentimes get a chance to see the bigger picture. And so what we're hoping is that this document that we send out once a month that will be presented at our board meetings, that you all will be able to have a chance to review the document ahead of the board meeting. If you have any questions as it relates to the items on within the document. You can always email or call us or what have or text us. But if you want to ask any questions in the actual board meeting, you'll be able to ask those questions as well. And it would give you more detailed information on the efforts that are not only put in our SEDS document, but just generally what we should be doing as an economic development organization. And at this time, if you guys have any questions, I'm more than willing or able to answer them if you have any questions as it relates to what we've presented so far.
Does anyone have anything that, from Jerry's standpoint, on the items of community interest? I know, Adam, you've got some things you want to mention for items of community interest. Anyone have anything else with Jerry? Questions for him?
Nope.
Okay. Adam, I'll let you go next, and then anyone else who has an item of community interest they would like to bring up after Adam's finished, you will have that opportunity.
Yeah, and actually, I'm hoping Jerry will chip in on this one too. A couple weeks ago, you may have seen in your weekly that Jerry and I went to the Texas Venture Fest and Forum. So, something that we're trying to do here that we started to do last year in October was really that startup innovation. Sort of build that like tech. What do you call it?
Ecosystem.
Ecosystem. There we go. In Pflugerville. I feel like we met a lot of interesting folks. We had conversations with innovations managers from the University of Texas system. The University of North Texas has a new national security degree program and institute that we're trying to figure out ways to partner. But, it all goes to, this is all for momentum for what we're going to do in October for Venture Fest. But, Jerry, please chime in. But, in my opinion, it's all about, the city manager had tasked us with, how can Pflugerville get out there? How can we, how can we show who we are, innovation? It's gotten us in some really sort of interesting conversations, or started up interesting conversations that perhaps we wouldn't have had otherwise through regular means. So, hoping next year we can get more of y'all to go, because I remember being in conversations saying this would have been great if Oscar was here or others were here. So I think just more of a reminder of we can the different places that we can find opportunities in Pflugerville that perhaps we haven't before.
I agree wholeheartedly, Adam. I'll share with you. We've already gotten about 2 or 3 conversations have gotten started just off of that meeting, off of that session. I think the misnomer for a long time has been that entrepreneurs or startups are not primary jobs. And I will tell you, I'm seeing firsthand, even here in Boston, I am seeing wet lab space in person. I have actually visited myself. I've seen laboratories and I've seen startups who outgrow these shared lab spaces and are now looking at other states because this Boston region is so expensive. Even the talent attraction is so hard to do, and so that's one of the main reasons why a lot of these um, um, bio hubs are willing to meet with Texas to have the conversations of possibly luring them to our area. And so I will be honest, I was a little leery when I first read the SEDS document that spoke of wet labs. I will be the first to say I was kind of like, I don't know about that. But after these initial conversations, especially this past day or so, it has been made very apparent that there's a reason why we're starting to see bio-related businesses locate even in the hill country, as recent as in Cedar Park. So I think we're heading in the right direction. But I will tell you, it is going to take a lot of commitment and capital in order to entice these startups and businesses to make Pflugerville home. And what I would say to you in reverse of that, or I guess you can say in lieu of that, is in doing so, what I'm already seeing is a layered approach of we're talking about high dollar wages being paid. And we're talking about not only just PhDs, but also bachelor's and some community college and technical college expertise that are getting paid quite well because of the kind of workforce development that's taking place. And Boston right now is really struggling because perfect example, I just passed by a condo, an apartment. I'm sorry, not a condo, an apartment. And for a one bedroom apartment in a okay area was $3,000. So the opportunity, the affordability, the quality of life really puts us as a state and also being so close to Austin and being so close to UT puts us as a city in a very competitive advantage to be able to possibly attract some of these businesses.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Adam. You have anything else?
No, I think Jerry summarized it. I think just, we're putting ourselves in different spots and we're creating opportunities that perhaps weren't there before. So.
Oscar?
I hope this is appropriate, but kind of on the entrepreneurial tip, I've had the opportunity over the last few days to talk to a group of students that the school district is running they call it the Forge program, which is a 2-week camp for 7th grade through 12th grade kids that are interested in entrepreneurial pursuits. And it was very encouraging, the questions that were asked yesterday. And then tomorrow, there's a combination of this 2-week process with the pitch contest. So they're going to come out with their business ideas and their proposals and
Like Shark Tank.
Yep.
without the money, yes. That's it.
Thank you, Oscar. Mark, Jeff, yes,
No.
I have nothing in this category. So we will move on to item 4, public comment. In accordance with the Texas Attorney General's opinion, any public comment that is made on an item that is not on the published final agenda will only be heard by the PCDC board. No formal action, discussion, deliberation, or comment will be made by the PCDC board. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. To my knowledge, there is no one here to for public comment, from the public.
And this office received no public comment requests.
Can I say something about that? I could, because I know we don't ever usually have the public present. And I'm wondering if somehow we could do a better job of getting the public to come to make public comment if they understood what PCDC represents and how it impacts our city. I would think it's important. I think I can't believe that there are a lot of businesses that don't realize that we're here and don't want to say anything or don't care to say anything. And then by the same token, I know we have a lot of critical thinkers in our community that would certainly have some interest. I'd hate to be the best kept secret in town. That bothers me a little bit.
So, Mayor Gonzalez, I agree with you wholeheartedly. That was one of the reasons why we hosted the Inside the PCDC a couple of days ago to highlight kind of like the backstory of who we are, what we do, and what we're capable of doing, what we have done. Out of that, we only had about 20 in person, but what I found interesting was that 212, I believe, Adam, and please correct me if I'm wrong, about 212 were in attendance online. And there we made a plea to let them know that we do have our board meetings and that there's 3 minutes to come and make a presentation and let your voice be known to just kind of share what your thoughts are. What kind of concerns me, and this is just Jerry only been here since February the 3rd, when I am talking with people about PCDC and after they get past trying to kind of connect the name to the acronym or to the abbreviated name, they then are, especially the businesses, they have this, oh yes, you guys are working and helping businesses. And there's not really a connection that seems to be, there's a need to come to the meetings. And so we are working on that because I agree with you. If there's something that we're not doing that we could be doing more of, we need to know that. Like
Well, Jerry, I think we're on the same page, but by the same token, I just realized if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, and actually,
that's kind of what I've heard too, Mayor, from a few people. So that's kind of what I've heard also. So it's kind of a twofold situation. I've heard that as well. So they kind of go, well, we don't see that you guys have done anything bad. So it's almost like that. You could go and tell the story of how great the waitress is as much as you do when the waitress is horrible or the waiter is horrible. It's kind of that situation. People tend to talk more when something's going on that they don't
Going
like,
wrong.
more so than what they do when they do like it. So
part of the reason too, though, and this kind of goes to what Victor was touching on, Jerry, and again, from your standpoint too, with the town hall type meetings the other day, and that is this. In between meetings, I will have individuals who will come up to me and speak with me about various things that PCDC has some connection to, or the city, or other aspects of our community. It could even be ESD or the school district. And they occasionally will say to me, well, I want to make a note in my calendar. I want to show up at the next PCDC meeting to speak during open comments, because these are individuals that are fairly sophisticated, so they understand the process. So that's right. I always kind of ask, and I look toward the door in case one of those individuals is coming in to make a comment. Again, they understand, folks that I'm referring to, they understand that during public comment, your time we're discussing, this would be where they could share information, comments, whatever it may be, on items that are not already on the agenda, because they would understand that if they wish to attend the meeting and when it gets to that item on the agenda, that's when they would speak to that particular item. But the point, though, is great about all of this is we're looking for ways to make sure we're connecting with our community so that they feel very comfortable that this is their meeting as much as we're conducting business, and they are welcome, more than welcome, to come in and share their thought on something that's not on our agenda or that, and very likely should be on our agenda in the future. So.
Yeah.
Our spending time talking about something as basic as the public comments is not a waste of our moments. This is helping keep us focused on what's really important, and that's the citizens of Pflugerville.
And board president, White, we've also started posting our meeting notices on social media since a lot of people get their information on social media. We've also started posting it on LinkedIn, Facebook, I want to say Instagram, and then we've also gone into the Facebook groups and have shared the board meeting within those groups just so we can try to reach more people. So Mayor, I completely agree with you and your sentiments, and just know that we are trying to reach as many as we can. And if we find, or if you guys identify another additional way for us to do so, by all means, we're more than happy to throw something up against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, I just want to comment. So maybe, all those are the normal social media things, but, it's possible to have a 60-minute thing saying, play at the theaters. Hey, what does PCCD do? PCDC. And,
At the theater? That's awesome. Thank you. I did not.
and the other thing is maybe just an impact once a month that says, hey, this is when the meeting. That way, you're doing it on paper, but also online as well. So.
You meant 60-second, right?
Hmm?
You meant 60-second.
Yeah, 60 seconds.
Okay, you said 60 minutes.
Yeah,
That's
60
a
seconds.
feature length.
But you could probably talk for 60 minutes, but,
It-
60-second hit.
Yeah.
Just watching you cover 60 seconds.
That's freaking awesome. That's a great idea.
So if you're gonna if we're gonna go on into the motion, the theaters, the theaters, make sure you get Matthew McConaughey to be the spokesperson. Very good.
We'll work on it.
He's here local anyways.
He is local.
I mean, if we're going for Pflugerville celebrities, wouldn't it be like Alex Okafor, I guess, former NFL legend?
Hmm.
Legend, maybe, I don't know.
With
Average player.
Pflugerville High.
Okay. We will close item 4 and now move into item 5, regular meeting items. And the first meeting item that we have is item 5A. That is item 5A 2025-0485, discuss and consider action to approve the PCDC May 21st, 2025 regular meeting minutes. I will entertain a motion.
I move. Second.
Victor moves to approve. Jeff seconds.
Sorry, it was Mark.
Mark seconds. And if you've noticed in the last meetings, I'm being very deliberate in who's doing what, not only for Lisa's benefit, but also for mine and Adam's and Jerry being online. So Mark, thank you very much for making the second. So with that, we'll go around starting with Adam
Aye.
to vote. Adam
Yes.
says yes.
Aye.
Oscar, yes. Darrell White, yes.
Aye.
Victor, aye.
Aye.
Jeff, aye. So it's 6-0. Moving on to item 5B, 2025-0486, update on Project Greenfield.
Good evening. I'm sorry.
Just before we open this item and get into discussion, just want, I was out of town, but I have had opportunity to observe the video of the online portion of the city council meeting on June 10th. So if you hear me make comments or as we're having this conversation on certain things, please help keep me on task in that I may make a comment about something in context of what was said without giving the backstory on what I observed. Okay, Jerry?
Thank you, Board President White. What I did was I wanted to do a timeline of kind of where we got started to where we are today. this is the same timeline for the most part that you all received in April during our March meeting, not April, during our March meeting. And so, I I'm sorry, not March. During our April meeting, this was made presented to you. This conversation of buying property really started around April of last year when Ernst and Young came and did our SEDS plan and spoke with council talking about going towards 973. And then from that 973 conversation, at the time, the executive director at that time started looking for parcels in the area of 973. Around June, the executive director retired. July, the interim executive director came in and was a city staff employee and really had a good understanding as to what the capacity was over there on the city staff's bandwidth as far as what they could do on due diligence. So thought that that would be a great opportunity to do collaboration between the city and the PCDC and brought them in. At one point in time, we were supposed to be moving towards using a firm, an engineering firm that we typically have used in the past to do the due diligence. This was a little different. We decided to go with city staff to conduct that due diligence process. That process then yielded us a report that you all have seen a few times at this point that said, hey, instead of the 973 parcels, consider these other parcels here. Many of them, in fact, all of them but one, well, many of them were either contiguous to the city or within the city limits already. And there really wouldn't be much need for any kind of harsh or difficult annexations processes to take place. And so from there, we moved forward to February when I arrived, and then I attended the closing process along with Board President White and the interim director. And then we get into March, where the city staff came and visited PCDC during the board meeting and gave a similar presentation of the one that was made by the consultants during the January 28th city council meeting. And then fast forward, after that, the city staff um, had conversations, and the board decided to give me the allowance to review the project holistically and then present to the board during the April meetings on findings and the direction that we should consider going in. Um, Going forward in April, presentation was made by myself. It was there that we discussed that, yes, the purchase of the property was $25 million. But when you add in principal and interest, we're talking about $33 million overall for the cost of the property. And that within this document, we talked about how the bond debt language was needed to be referenced more, and how higher education facilities, retail and restaurants, was not the only thing that was referenced in the bond language, and how that seemed to have been kind of like the paramount of the 50% of the conceptual design, and then the other 50% of the conceptual design was just different variations of housing. And so in that presentation, we touched on several different topics, talked about how and why the PCDC should be leading this project. And that was on page 19 of that presentation. It talks about how this would not be viewed as a conflict of interest in the eyes of other developers if we, the PCDC, is leading the project versus if city staff is leading the project, just merely by the fact that if you have developers in the surrounding area who are developing, and they, as they always or often do, have issues with certain decisions that are made, especially if it's not in the liking as to what they want, this does not allow them to be able to use this project as a cause for their own gripe with a procedure that they need to follow. Then also put in there, talked about how we should do more due diligence on what the fact finding is behind the data of the market and feasibility. The PCDC board came out and moved forward with a market and feasibility study, and for me to work with city managers, designated staff member. The In May of this year, the PCDC reimbursed an invoice from the city for professional services that was rendered during the foundational phase of this project that deals with the initial assessment and conceptual design. The presentation that was made to the council on January the 28th, and then the one that was made to you on March of this year as well. And so that was paid back. I presented to the PCDC/city staff roundtable discussions that we have that we were issuing a request for a market and feasibility plan, and that the board wanted to know the facts and data before entering into a lengthy or costly relationship with an owner's rep. I created a request for quotes for this study, differing from the city staff's request for qualifications for an owner's representative. This decision was based on PCDC board guidance to conduct market research before incurring the expense of an owner's representative, as well as just wanting to make sure that legal had an opportunity to review the process that we were going towards, which was a request for quotes. We did consult with our legal counsel. The PCDC legislatively, it has the authority and the flexibility of using this format. The city staff remained against the idea for the request for quotes, citing that it was against the law. Now, the request for quotes is not permissible for the city to use that format. So they are correct when they say that it is against the law for the city to operate with a request for quotes. But for the PCDC, we are legislatively created just for that flexibility alone. The document was reviewed again by council, but there was a complication that came up. So in June of this year, which we are still in, by the way, the request for the market and feasibility study for Project 4 was released on June the 6th after the legal and the intergovernmental review. And what I mean by intergovernmental review, I mean I did forward it to city staff for their review of the document, which is where they believe that, hey, city can't do this, but we know that PCDC can. June the 6th, the item 6B was added to the agenda to consider taking action on the request for qualifications format for the city staff wanted to use. It was made clear by the council that the PCDC had done nothing illegal and that we could use that format. The city staff referenced the financial service agreement as to why they believe that PCDC should not be able to use this method, although it is entirely lawful as a tool for EDCs. What was also clear is that the city council wanted to meet with the PCDC board and attorney to discuss who would drive this project. This meeting is scheduled for June the 24th at 5 p.m. during a special called meeting. During the meeting, the city council also voted to request that the RFQ that we placed forward, that it would be withdrawn from the public's view at this time. That document has been removed. And so we are now awaiting June 24th as the scheduled meeting for this particular discussion. And at this time, I yield to Board President White or anyone else for that matter.
Thank you, Jerry. So to summarize just again, from just the elements, and thank you, Jerry, for the walking us through the background elements as reminders. But the the piece is June 6th, we had a request for quote released. City Council had a discussion on it on June 10th. As Jerry said, through those discussions, the vote was to request PCDC to take that down in confirmation, in conversation following that I had with Jerry. I agreed as the president to move in that direction, as that was given as the guidance or suggestion from City Council. And we also discussed the June 24th joint meeting as being something that we would work toward. When I say it that way, I say it from the standpoint of my conversation with Jerry. So at this point, I would like to touch on one thing first, and then we'll go into other discussions. On June 24th, and I assume, Victor, you may know more about this as far as timing, that we're talking about the work session at 5 o'clock.
Actually called a special meeting.
Okay. So the special meeting would be held at what time on the
5
24th?
o'clock.
At 5 o'clock on the 24th. And would there be a separate item on the agenda for PCDC?
Well, that item will be on that special meeting agenda, so council could take action during that special meeting.
Oh, at the special meeting. Okay, so again, for those that have not been deeply involved in city council agendas, I just want to, so at the special meeting, the item is in place. It allows for discussion and action. So following the special meeting, going into the regular city council, regular agenda meeting, I guess my question, to be more specific, would there also be a PCDC item on that agenda?
Well, there is, if we don't finish the discussion. And
Okay.
During I mean, we should, it's 2 hours.
Okay, and again, I look at Victor because he and I have had years of experience together on council with these items, so I'm just trying to make sure on a time commitment standpoint, from your perspective as board members, how critical it would be for you to be there, but more importantly, what's the expectation of your involvement? So we have the special meeting on the 24th. It starts at 5 o'clock. When we were just talking about the regular agenda, that item that we discussed during that beginning at 5 o'clock, if we run out of time before the regular city council meeting starts at 7, by having it also posted on the regular agenda at city council meeting, it allows for additional discussion to pick up at that time. However, if at the 5 o'clock meeting, everything is addressed and completed, that placeholder is not necessary.
Right. And
Okay.
to be clear, it's placed on discussion and potential action. There may not necessarily need to be any action, so.
Correct. No, I'm with you. I understand. But the special meeting, let me back up. If it is a work session's action cannot be taken. So as it being a special meeting, that allows for full action. And Josh, please keep me straight if I say something incorrectly or not complete. So I'm just trying to set the table for all of our board members. As I ask the question, is Tuesday, June 24th, starting at 5 o'clock, a time that you're available? I am available. I've done things to make sure I can.
I can be available.
I am indeterminate at this point. I'll have to check and see. There may be some conflicts I can't get out.
Mr. President, I do have a conflict. I have a city council meeting every Tuesday, and I'm scheduled to be in Kilgore in East Texas on that night. But I have been in contact with the city attorney, and we're supposed to have another meeting to make sure that we are on the same page on all the legal issues, right? And we will have that meeting before, and I will probably have, if I can work out the conflict, I will be there, but if not, it will be someone else from our firm.
Okay, but at minimum, you will have a meeting or discussion with
Yeah, Mr.
Attorney
Zach.
Zach,
Yeah.
who's the city, Spillerville city attorney.
Yes. We've already spoken once and we're going to speak again.
I have no problem.
Okay, Oscar, Adam,
Keep time decision.
Game time decision. Game time decision.
Oh, team time decision.
Game time decision, yeah,
Excellent.
based on.
And I fully understand what Adam is saying as a father with young children. He is definitely focused on the right things. Again, I want to hit this time and availability, and if you can be there, very, very firm, because it's not a command performance meeting, but I think it will speak well of PCDC. If all of us who can be there, and I say it that way because if you are not able to be there, that is well understood. But for all of those who can be there, is to be thoughtful and prepared to speak on any particular item that may come up regarding this project and how we move forward, not just with this project, but other items that the city council may raise. Because this discussion is a special meeting between the PCDC board and the city council. PCDC's executive director will speak and be privy and have the ability to speak to various things. But this is our opportunity to get from the city council a very clear understanding, as well as their very clear understanding of what we're about, and having an extremely, not just extremely, but a successful project, which was Greenfield, that we're moving to the next title for that project since we've completed the Greenfield acquisition, of having this as something that the community would not only be proud of, but understand why it was done. That this was done for the benefit of the community, not for something that's going to look nice, but for something that's truly going to contribute. Now, I've said quite a bit, again, on the joint meeting, because I thought that was the most important thing, to make sure we were all on the same page, that we could do that. But what I would like to do now is, because there were several things that were mentioned at the city council meeting, and even the way the item was placed on the agenda that I'm just not clear of, that I would like to better understand. Because one of the things that I've strived to do, and I've thanked Jerry for how he's allowed me to bug him on different things, is I've tried to be extremely aware of everything that is happening with the work on this project, from the beginning of the acquisition of the land to how the process is going, to how, and an understanding, having served in the city council role, understanding the way the different processes have to work from the city side, whether it be requests for qualifications or other actions that the city can take in that process, as well as having been engaged with the PCDC board for so many years and utilizing other processes that we've used from the PCDC standpoint that were far more effective, that the city would not have been able to do. All I'm getting to is I felt like I had an extremely good grasp of the whole picture. And one of the things that I'm always focused on when it comes to economic development, and why you even see me sitting here, is we need to be moving forward and doing things and not being distracted. And I keep feeling like there's distractions. And this is not a matter of how do we resolve the distractions. What I'm getting to is we just need to make sure we're on the same page and we're clear. And when I say we, I'm talking about city council, PCDC board, PCDC staff, city staff, because we're all in the same boat. And I keep seeing agendas that come up, not on PCDC side, but on the city council side, where I thought I was in sync on what's happening, and I see something that will come up and I wonder, well, why was that there? And it seems to sometimes be posted on the last day of the agendas needing to be posted. And I'm not talking about just what happened just recently, but even in the past. It's one of the reasons I get asked a lot of times by people, why are you coming to city council meetings? Well, it's one of the reasons for years I've been going to city council meetings, because I keep seeing these things pop up. Now, please understand, I'm not saying there's a better way to do it. No. I'm saying I'm a fairly sophisticated citizen in the city of Pflugerville. And if I'm having trouble following the ball, what is it that I'm missing? So. Victor,
I have an answer for you.
exactly. So that was my setup for opening up to this discussion to start.
Well, Darrell, I know how you're feeling about all this. And here's the thing is that, and just the fundamentals of agenda development is that, for example, today I had an agenda review meeting with all the staff on the number of items that are going to be potentially placed on the agenda for the next meeting. And so generally we go through that, make sure everything's in order, and then this is what happens. And this is why you have things at the last minute. You have a city council person that says, hey, I want to put this item on the agenda. Well, staff didn't have time to review it. It wasn't covered in a regular agenda review. It's kind of one of those all of a sudden things, and it is usually at the last minute. And it happens many, many times. So that's why that happens. And when you have a city council person asking to place an item on the agenda, sometimes staff doesn't have or understand the concept of why. There may be a general understanding, but if the city council member doesn't place a document in front of us that says, this is what I'm going to cover and this is why I want to cover it, that doesn't always happen. And that's what happened on that item. The one thing I would suggest for this next meeting, because as I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's like, Jeff and I had cataract surgery and we were sharing how we see everything a lot clearer now. And I think that's kind of what we're going to have is a cataract surgery in that we want to clear up the mud and the water in terms of how this project's going to move forward. One of the recommendations I would make, whether it's relevant or not, but certainly would be helpful, and Darrell, you probably have already reviewed that, is the request for quote document that Jerry put together and a request for qualification document that the city put together. You should be aware of those documents, read through them and see what the differences are. There are differences, obviously. So what I'm seeing, I think, and I hope we're going that way, is how do we meld some of the elements of both documents together to make it a move forward document, whether it ends up being called a request for quote or request for qualification, one way or the other. It should have the common elements that will help build and move the project along a lot smoother. So if you can't find the documents, let me know. We'll get them for you.
Okay, so the request for qualifications document, I have not read. I did read the request for quote in detail as it was prepared and understood it and had been, from the standpoint of understanding, had been engaged in those types of things in the past. So I saw the elements, I understood, as we talked about even with our board meeting, voting for moving forward with this market assessment.
Right.
Okay.
I don't
So-
think I don't think it sabotages the request for the market analysis. I mean, that's where we want to go,
Correct.
but how do we put the pieces together to get in that direction?
That's correct. So many years ago at a city council meeting, we were going through a request for qualifications. And one of the council members was getting into the discussion about, as we were going through this approval of the request for qualifications, as to all the different items. All I'm getting to is, over the years, I've had to become very, very familiar with the request for qualification document. My point in bringing that up is that I hope that when I read that document, I will find something far more significant, because my concern is that when I read this request for qualifications, I will see the documents that I've seen before that are well done, but they're done for a certain purpose. And they don't allow the leeway in this initial step in the process that we were attempting to do. And my point is, and I agree with you, we need to read both documents. We need to be prepared for our conversation. But we're losing time. And it's not that we have to do this instantly or the project's not going to be bad. But I have conversations with people occasionally wanting to know, why are we not moving forward? Why hasn't something happened on this? And I'm thinking, that's what we're trying to do, but it seems like we take one step forward and two steps back, one step forward and two steps back. In addition, Josh, with regard to those two documents, I know that's probably a big part of what you and the city attorney will be discussing. I don't know that for a fact, but as the mayor has just touched on, that appears to be, and what I observed in watching the city council discussion on June 10th, that seems to be the big issue.
Well, I think the legality of one document over the other, it may be more the legal issue than the content of the documents. Because I think
Okay.
even within the content of one or the other, you can interlock that information and still come out with a good document. Is what I'm saying. Josh, can you add anything to that?
No, I mean, for me, as Jerry said, I always look at things from the from the
Right.
EDC law, right? And in my view, the legislature gave EDCs the ability to be more nimble with making things happen. And so in my view, the general procurement rules don't apply to EDC projects. I think what I didn't, and in my view, because it's city, I mean, it's a PCDC owned land, and I, in my head, think of this as a PCDC project. Now, that doesn't mean that PCDC should not take into account, city desires and what city council wants. And I think all that can happen and should happen. And so I think there's just maybe, we need to clarify, the process, who's going to drive that bus, if this is a PCDC project and a city project, right? And the city doesn't have to make that decision yet, but council needs to give direction in terms of, how they want the process to go. And for me, I just view this sort of as this initial marketing feasibility study as just a preliminary investigation tool, right? For y'all to decide, what you know or don't know. But I also think it's reasonable that the city can say, we also want you to include X in your information thing. And for me, the legality piece is, if it truly is, or if it is also a city project, then we have some other boxes to check. And so,
But the issue with the legality has to do, excuse me, and again, I'm just making a statement. Is it more relative to the procurement ability of one or the other?
yeah, so in my view, the general state procurement laws don't apply to the EDC.
So that.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think that's the crux of the meeting, although it might certainly come up.
Yeah, I'm with you. From the standpoint, there's probably several elements to this, layers, whatever term you want to use. And by the way, I don't mean to monopolize the meeting tonight, but if that's what happens, I'm fine with it.
No, and I think it's great. I mean, if the city wants to be involved as well, the same thing is, should be reasonable, and it should not impede agility to move forward, right? And that's my thing with that. It's just not
Well,
a
it's
contest between two groups, right?
Right, no.
Who
And-
controls what?
And the moving forward part is important because that's an implication of lost ad valorem tax and revenue and all the opportunities that come. I mean, and I realize that whatever happens on that project, we're still 2 to 3 years out anyway.
Correct, but
Part of the
But,
process.
right, but the key element is what is the highest and best use on that project for the community? And that this project is not the end all. So again, for the benefit of the board members, when Victor and I early on were coming into the city council is when Stonehill Town Center was done. It wasn't, the dirt had not even been turned. So when you see Victor and I having this conversation, it's because we've seen what happens positively when we're pulling together as a city and as a PCDC. And there's certain things that the city can do well and does well. And there were a lot of things with Stonehill Town Center and why that happened the way it did. But when we went into the healthcare initiative piece, when we went into that part, that was right after that, trying to get a hospital coming here. And that was something, as we determined it, we needed to have a certain skill set and certain abilities to do things that would not necessarily fit well within what the city was doing. And that's why PCDC picked up on that initiative to lay the groundwork for the types of healthcare systems you see that have been coming into Pflugerville ever since the hospital, which took almost 10 years for that to happen. But my point is, the groundwork was laid well in advance of that. So we knew as a community what we should accept and could accept as these providers of healthcare were coming into our community, because we knew there was a tremendous need our citizens had for this. And it was, we didn't get the hospital right away, but we did get the St. David's Emergency Center at Stonehill. So that's where the connection came together. And we also, and this was before Victor and I, but the Walmart, all I'm getting to is we have gone through those stages. They've happened. Many of the leaders in this community that are still around have seen how those things can occur. The lake itself, all I'm getting to is we have demonstrated we know how to do these things as a community, whether it's the city, whether it's a PCDC, or how it's being done. What I'm concerned about is we're losing time because we're trying to decide who's on first and who's on second. And I apologize if I seem to be a little irritated, but it's not irritation. It's, I'm ready to get moving with this and doing it in the right way. And so this meeting on Tuesday is important because I think it's going to give everyone that's involved that opportunity to have that discussion. And it's not that we have to talk about everything there is under the sun. No, we just need to get what is the nut of the question and how can we get things addressed. And we have later in the agenda a discussion where we get into the administrative agreement, which to my surprise was part of what was bringing up, and again, if I understood this correctly, was what was bringing up this whole issue in the first place, as far as what PCDC should be able to do, as opposed to the city driving the process. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm trying to establish some understanding here of how all this fits together, so that when we have our meeting when we have the meeting on Tuesday and we have the discussion, we're talking about the same things. And it's not a matter of, well, I understood it to be this or you understood it to be that. No, I want to make sure that we're all talking about the same things.
Yeah, I want to read both. I don't know what the other members from city council are going to say. They may have a different agenda, what their issue is. But my thing, I guess, is each group has their own strengths and ability to do things, and then we should be leveraging those ideas and flexibility to achieve the goal of moving forward, and not get caught up in, little side things that really are not important to moving forward.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lee, but that's happening in Congress right now.
Yeah, I won't comment on that.
Yeah, but let me give you an example of something I'm talking about that's a bigger picture to this discussion of the project. We have a number of legacy landowners within our community that are at the stage where things will begin to happen from the standpoint of moving. That's part of the reason the Greenfield property came up, consideration, an element of that. So what we do with this project moving forward, when I say, and again, this case, I'm saying I'm including that bucket I discussed a moment ago, which is PCDC staff, PCDC board, city council, city staff. We are going to be observed by those individuals who have something that we do not have. And that is the ability to control large pieces of land that are within our community.
And again, just from a political perspective, it's a time where both the PCDC board and the city council cannot be at odds. We have to be on the same song page because developers have learned to treat PCDC
Right.
differently than the city council, and that's where all the muddle comes
Right.
in.
And I don't mind different treatment as long as what city and PCDC are doing is focused on the same outcome.
Exactly, sure.
Because having the differences allows us flexibility to do things within, again, the statutes and such that Texas allows, that we need to make sure we're utilizing, rather than doing things with one hand tied behind our back as we compete against other communities in the region. And go ahead.
Real quick, before I forget, in terms of what the statutes allow, Josh, I haven't read our service agreement in a while, but within that service agreement, are there provisions or fine print that says the PCDC can operate under understanding the city's procurement provisions, with the exception of the ability for PCDC to also detour because of statutory provisions?
I don't read the administrative agreement to cover procurement issues at all. It does cover a lot of other financial issues, budgets, audits, paying expenditures and things, but I don't read it to,
Well, then that should
Apply.
have never even come up. So,
I mean,
Yes, now I do have a question, and if you do not wish to answer it, because of lots of reasons, doesn't matter. But I was curious as to who placed it on the agenda.
Mr. Mateo.
Very good. Good to know. So, again, the reason why is not important. So it's good. Now, when we are getting our stuff as far as preparation together, one of the things, as mentioned, that will be provided is the request for quote document, any request for qualifications. And by the way, folks, this is not so you can become the expert in these things, but if you have the opportunity to read them in advance, I think when certain things are said during the discussion, it may help kind of connect the dots as to what the point someone's trying to make. But in addition to that, and I've got a copy, but it would probably be helpful that if we also had Jerry. Go ahead, Jerry.
I just wanted to share with the board, we'll make sure that by tomorrow that you receive both of those documents in your email. And it's my goal that you get them tonight, but more than likely you should get them by tomorrow afternoon.
And Mr. Mateer, being the attorney that he is, because we have those discussions all the time about a lot of things, I'm sure had a substantial reason for put it on the agenda.
No, I'm with you. And again, for the benefit of the board, anytime a city council member or mayor places something on an agenda, that is their right. And as a city council member in the past, if I didn't like what was placed on there, it didn't matter, because there were going to come times when I would have something placed on the agenda. And so it's a right and a privilege that we just have to honor and respect with each person. And even with the PCDC board agenda, we have a similar process in which is done. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Victor, but I think over the years, though, one of the things that has changed is the city manager, with the way things are set up right now, could actually just put things on the agenda as they feel. There's
And
not.
I approve the agenda every Friday.
Okay, so the mayor still approves.
Well,
Okay,
not every Friday, every.
right. But the point is, the mayor still approves. Okay, which is the way it was. Okay.
I think Jerry has a question.
Yes, Jerry.
Look, I just wanted to share that I'm not necessarily caught up in the process of the fact that the meeting was called. Again, as you said, that's a right and a privilege for any elected official in the capacity of the council. to be able to do so. I actually would prefer, I'm actually glad that this is coming to a conversation because since arriving in Pflugerville, even before arriving in Pflugerville, this is a project that this board has circled, put stars around, and highlighted and said, "Hey, Jerry, you got to get to moving on this project. This is a legacy project that's going to really, if done well, be a unique regional attraction." And so I get that, and I shared with the council last week that we all know I like to eat, and I've never been to a fine dining restaurant where there's more than one executive chef. And I've never driven in a car or rode in a car where I've seen two steering wheels in the car. Keep me out of that car. I do not want to be in that car with a driver and a passenger both having steering wheels. And so there needs to be a very clear message on who's going to steer the ship. Not because I'm crazy about being in control. I think I've said about 2 or 3 times now at this point that if the city staff really wants this project, that I've asked the board to let them have it. So I'm not beholden to I don't have a territorial desire for the project, but what I do have a desire to do is if this board has selected me to lead in the capacity of executive director, if this board has gone through the process of purchasing property, if this board has gone through the process of having being selected by the council, meaning you all have been identified as good stewards within the community to be able to help lead and guide this organization, but then let me do my job, or as one of the council members said, let me cook. And so that's all I'm asking for. I actually would prefer that whichever project is of the least constraint and kind of back and forth. I want that project. I want the project that allows us to be able to get things going, move forward, and make it happen. Because I'll tell you guys, I did not like what happened the next day after that meeting. There was a town hall that we had, and the very first question that came out the chute was whether or not there was too much oversight from the city staff and the city council on what we do as a PCDC, and was there a lack of autonomy? And the citizens should not be having the ability to ask those types of questions. And so I hope that June 24th gets here, that we can have this cleared up so that we can move forward. And I'm going to be a cheerleader no matter which direction it goes in. Just because, quite honestly, I do think that there needs to be a decision on who's going to drive it, and make sure that
Well-
it goes in the direction that's suitable for the community.
Yeah, Jerry, I think you'll get your answer on the 24th. I have some comments that I'm going to reserve until the 24th because I think they need to be made in the presence of not only this board, but also the city council, because I think it's significant. And so I'm going to reserve those comments. I mean, they're not negative, it's just
I understand.
information.
That's, that's wise.
Yeah.
And by the way, the reason I asked the mayor that question about who placed an agenda is that one of the council members, Councilmember Holiday, had asked that question during the meeting, and it wasn't answered, which I thought was unusual. And that's only.
Well, if she had been paying attention, she would have noticed that we had deferred to Mr.
No,
Mateo.
I understand, but I watched it closely. And by the way, based upon that, and I had that.
And I'm not
I did.
cutting Ms. Holiday down, I'm just saying.
No. I'm
it
just
was
saying,
evident who had placed it
I'm
on
just
the
saying that I thought it was a little unusual that it wasn't verbalized from an audience standpoint, but again,
Well, that's a good point. We may need to do that.
correct. We all win together. and we all lose when we're pulling each other apart, whether it's within the board, whether it's within the council, whether it's within the different organizations. And so I'm very pleased that the way even this conversation is going right now, that I think we all recognize that. And it's not because we've had a lot of training and self-help and all that. No, I think it's because we're, to a person, we've had a deep breadth of experience in working through critical issues and coming up with solutions that everyone can do well at and succeed. So these are not platitudes, but that's how critically important this issue is right now. I can't control the counterparts that we engage with in the other areas, but we can control our portion of it. And I look forward to the meeting. And Jerry, do you have anything else before we go to the next item?
No.
Okay. Anything else? And with that, I will close item.
I have a comment.
Okay, yes, Oscar, please.
So there's a level of frustration that I have in that the expectation isn't that PCDC is moving forward with this project because it bought the property, it did all the other things. My perception is we're having to justify why we should be leading this project. And that does not make sense to me. That's my frustration. And I, apologize. I didn't pay attention on that services contract stuff. You know my opinion. I've always said, I see this as ADP. ADP doesn't tell you how to promote people or pay people. And the fact that an aspect of justification for putting that on the council agenda was because we were violating that agreement. The fact that that agreement has any language in it that allows us to not do what we're allowed to do by the state is ridiculous. But, so I'm just frustrated that we're at a point where we're trying to justify why we should be running we're not going to do the wrong thing. It's almost as if, you guys, we can't trust you guys because, we're not sure you're going to take advantage of whatever's in the request for ownership, whatever that other thing that the city does. It makes sense for us to do all of it together. And that could have been handled by discussions, private discussions, offline discussions. It didn't have to get to the level of a council meeting agenda item, in my opinion. That should have been, and in fact, during the meeting, it was constantly said, oh, well, PCDC, maybe you're not engaging sufficiently with staff. Well, I would say maybe because this thing is on the agenda, someone didn't engage sufficiently with whatever parties to get this resolved before it got to that level. So anyway.
Well, let me make a comment, not to what your frustration is, but let me say this, that I think as of today, as of recently, this board has the PCDC is probably one of the most elevated boards in the city in terms of commissions and boards, because we have a fiduciary responsibility, we have a tax revenue income, and actually this is one of the boards that most people want to be on, okay? So we have that, and that's what has been my concern over the years, is that we have this ability and this responsibility to the community. We are selected, and I'm the exception. I'm still selected by the city council to be on this commission, as all of you are, because of your experience and your engagement in the community. And I believe that, I think you're at the same level as city council members. And I think in terms of our maturity, our responsibility, our knowledge of the community, what is in the best interest for the vision of Pflugerville. You guys, we're at the same level as city council. So it's not them and us, it's us together, as Darrell says, we all win together. And I think this meeting will help us, I hope, and that's why I'm reserving my comments, that it'll help bring the two groups together to an understanding, is that we're helping each other, not hurting each other, and that's how I feel.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Oscar.
I'm just saying bridging is important. If you don't do that, nobody's gonna be successful.
This is a huge opportunity, you know, we don't,
As we close this out, we're going to switch gears for a second, still to this subject about placing an agenda. I think it would be helpful as items are being developed, and I do understand the last minute thing, but as items are being developed regarding a critical area of the city, in this case PCDC, and something being placed on an agenda as an example of what was on the June 10th meeting related to PCDC, that it would have been a courtesy if the executive of PCDC would have been made aware of the reason, and that the president of the board made aware. And again, it's not, they have to say anything, that they
Right.
being the party that's doing it, because I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to see it anyway, but I would rather see it up front and understand better.
Well, under normal conditions, you would see it up front, but when a council member puts it on at the last minute, there's not even any backup data for that, so that's unfortunate.
Correct, and it wouldn't necessarily, all I'm getting, and by the way, this is not a request that, oh, we have approval for what's going to be in the agenda. No. This is going to be, by the way, this is going to be on the agenda. I know you're probably going to see it in 15 minutes, but I just want to let you know that this is what is happening. And it doesn't have to even be the council member that's doing it. It just could be, all I'm getting to is it's a communication element.
Sure.
And I'm going to say something, and please no one misinterpret what I'm trying to say. Our city, and I think even in PCDC's material in several places, we harp on transparency. And we harp on trust, and we harp on conduct and so forth. The more we demonstrate those types of actions, we don't have to say the words. So that's, I guess I'm just trying to get at.
I get you.
We're missing opportunities to demonstrate an action to reinforce our use of those words.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Anything else? We will now go to the next item 5C, which actually kind of connected to what we just discussed. And that's 2025-0489. And this is discuss and consider action to provide direction to the executive director to review all governing documents that may remove or reduce the flexibility provided to the organization legislatively and identify items that should be discussed by the PCDC board and council. So the item is now open for discussion.
And I guess that was a question I asked earlier, Josh. What is it in the agreement or whatever we have document between the PCDC and city council that limits either or, I guess I should say?
Yes, Mayor. And as I said earlier, the agreement says that the PCDC will conduct payroll and financial operations in conformance with the city, but all of the financial things are processing payroll, following process for compensation and classification for personnel, employees. Then there's audit issues. You have to use the city's financial advisor and bond counsel, use the same budget process.
That's not precluded by any state statute, the bond council?
No, you can. I mean, well, here's the deal. State law says that the board, all of the powers and operations of the board of the corporation are vested in its board of directors, right? So that's the outside limit of, what you can do. Now, state law also requires you guys to have an agreement with the city in order to provide personnel, HR, those kinds of lease space, right? We have to have those types of agreements, and then sometimes somewhere in the middle. So almost all EDCs have a version of this agreement with their cities because it's required by state law, right? And so but the area where everything meets is, how much can you guys, defer or give up to the city without violating state law and giving up your duties to govern the corporation, right? So that's where the rubber meets the road on these types of agreements. And so, but again, when I heard I hadn't watched the council meeting, but, yes, the agreement mentions financial operations, but procurement is not specifically called out like the other issues. And, the PCDC has its own procurement policy, which didn't change after this administrative services. So, I don't know that I can't say from this document that the intent was to cover.
And Josh,
Yeah.
our executive director, Jerry, has something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry.
So this item on the agenda is not just targeted at that discussion. I really typically have done, I guess you can say, a review of process, policies, and procedures, kind of on the early end of joining an organization and kind of just really digging in and seeing where the gaps and weaknesses or the hindrances are. This is not, this just was what you call bad timing, to be quite honest with you, because it came at the crux of this situation. I'll give you a perfect example. I actually was trying to cancel this meeting tonight and reschedule this meeting to a later date so that I could be in person. The current bylaws, which is a part of the governing documents, states that we would have had to have a meeting tonight to reschedule the meeting for the next day, which meant y'all would have had to show up to literally say, we're going to have another meeting next week. So those are the types of things that I'm also looking for. It's not just one specific situation that goes with this agreement. It's the agreement is a part of that discussion, right? Because anything that takes away our nimble or flexibility, otherwise there's really no the added bang for buck, so to speak, when it comes to the incentive.
So this is mainly an administrative thing. So, Darrell, I move approval of 5C.
Yeah, and I'll second that.
Pick one.
All right. Adams. Okay, Victor made the motion. Adams seconded. We have a motion and a second to go ahead and approve giving the executive director the direction to identify items that should be discussed by the PCDC board and council for possible future changes to the documents.
Too late to ask a question, Josh.
Yet the question is still open. So Oscar, you have a question about?
When you say the state requires economic development corporations to have an agreement, does that mean they have to use, or they just have to have an agreement, which means we're not using anything you offer, we're going to do it elsewhere, but we have to have that stated as an agreement? Or do you have to have an agreement that says you will use the city services?
No, it doesn't mean that you have to use the city services. It just means the city can't give anything to any person for free, right? So it just says if you're going to use, and y'all don't, but if you're going to use city offices or you're going to use city personnel, you're going to, the statute does allow the corporation to offer city benefits and all the retirement and health insurance. And so in order to do that, you have to have an agreement for those kind of things with the city.
Right.
But that's really that's the floor, right? And then you can do more, you can do less. But if you want to offer those kind of benefits, and of course the city has to agree, right? I mean, but that's really the only requirement. But some places, I mean, a lot of places, like I said, almost every EDC has some sort of agreement like this because they all offer the benefits to their staff, right? That's a huge recruiting tool and things. And some of these agreements specify the things that don't apply, right? That they say, even though you're getting city benefits, you're not a city employee, right? Because we don't, we don't want to have those HR
Right,
mix-ups and things, right? So,
Okay.
these are very useful tools, and the organization just needs to, figure out what's beneficial and what's not.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and I'll just add to that, Oscar, is that, for example, when the city approves a 3% merit increase or cost of living increase every year, then that applies to the PCDC as well. So that's just a part of
Okay.
those provisions.
Say that again?
If the city, well, we usually provide a 3% cost of living as a standard,
Right.
and it applies to PCDC as well.
So why would it apply to PCDC if we are a separate governmental unit?
So
It-
if I can.
I think Jerry can answer the
Jerry
question.
Answer that for me.
Yeah, so theoretically, what happens is during the budget time period, there are numbers placed in the in the budget that aligns for the possibility of that increase. And
Oh,
so
So it's in the budget.
No,
yeah.
no, no, I
Yes.
understand what you're saying now. Okay. No, no,
Yes.
I'm with you. I I interpreted what you said differently than
Okay.
how it works. Got it.
Gotcha.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to give the executive director the authority to move forward with review of these documents that may define ways that where the current documents may remove or reduce flexibility provided to us legislatively, and to identify items that should be discussed by the PCDC board and council. So we have that motion. Adam, I want to start with you.
Aye.
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 Oscar? Aye.
Aye.
Burrell? Aye.
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 Okay, so it's unanimous. And and Jerry, thank you for clarifying that item and helping me with, with what Victor had said. We are now moving into executive session. The time now is 7:32 as I read through this. The items 5D, 2025-0488. Item 1, executive session item, deliberation in accordance with sections 551.071 and 551.087 of the Texas Government Code to discuss economic development negotiations and financial information received from businesses expanding or relocating in the city of Pflugerville, and to seek legal advice regarding such projects, incentives, and negotiations, including projects Z-Star, Listen, Forward, CAP, Server, and SIM. Item 2, executive session item 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding pending litigation with 15508 Impact Way LLC versus PCDC et al. Case number 1:23CV00914, U.S. District Court of the Western District of Texas. Item 3, executive session item, deliberations in accordance with sections 551.072 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the sale, purchase, or lease of real property, and this will be Project Listen. Item 4, executive session item, discussion of personnel matters pursuant to Chapter 551.074 of the Texas Government Code regarding the Business Retention and Workforce Development Director, Business Development Director, Innovation and Entrepreneurship Manager, Research and Data Analyst, and Executive Assistant. We are now in executive session. We've returned from executive session. The time now is 7:55. No action was taken. Move to the next item, 6A, 2025-0490, open session items. Discuss and consider action on executive session items as needed. No action was taken. The meeting is adjourned.
All right.